Hi everyone, my name is Siti Marti 295145. Today I'm going to talk about the use of framing and composition in our short film. Framing helps guide the viewer's eye and set the emotional tone of each scene. The first technique we use rule of thirds. In this shot, the subject placement is clear. The person in the foreground is positioned roughly along the vertical line on the left side of the frame rather than directly in the center. The road in the background creates leading lines which guide the viewer's eyes into the distance. The straight line entry in the upper right also fall into a PowerPoint if we apply the grid, which enhances the visual interest. This is similar to a scene from Titanic 1997 where the subject are positioned along the vertical third line and the horizon follows the bottom third. This technique creates a balanced and engaging composition. Next, we use close-up shot to capture a very intense moment. This kind of shot in closely on the character's eyes, letting us see the tiniest details like sweat, flickers of fears, or even the way of their eyes move. It is powerful because it pulls the audience into what the character is feeling without needing words. In fact, this is a technique often used to build suspense or highlight the emotional tension. A great example of this is in the movie Mother 2017, where the camera stays tight on the character's distressed face, forcing the audience to experience her anxiety firsthand. Besides that, we use two shots to focus on the relationship between two characters. In this technique, both people are kept in the frame together, usually facing each other. It shows how close they are physically or emotionally and helps highlight any tension or connection between them. Their eye line often cross, which emphasizes their interaction. You will see this kind of setup in Ambulance 2022 where two characters share their frame during intense conversation. One might dominate visually, but the other is still present, balancing the scene. So overall, our framing and composition choices were aimed at strengthening emotion, guiding focus, and showing relationship visually.
Let's begin with the telephoto lens. This type of lens has a shallow depth of field where the background is softly blurred and the subject is sharply focused. This creates a feeling of compressed space, making the background appear much closer than it really is. In terms of mood, telephoto lenses often emphasize feelings of tension, mystery, and especially loneliness. We can see an example from Joker 2019 where this lens helps convey the character's vulnerability and isolation. Next, we have the wide-angle lens. It has a deep depth of field, meaning much of the scene remains in focus from foreground to background. This lens is often used to show environmental awareness, making it useful for scenes of surveillance or suspense. It also allows for the use of foreground silhouettes to create mystery. In Memories of Murder 2003, the wide-angle lens reveals the full surroundings, letting the audience absorb both character and environment in one frame. Finally, the normal lens. It offers a shallow to medium depth of field. The subject remains clearly in focus, but the background gradually fades. This lens feels the most natural to our human eye and often supports character-driven emotion. When combined with low angles, it can show power or inner turmoil. In this Joker 2019 shot, we see isolation highlighted by shadows, giving a mood that's contemplative and intense, signaling emotional breaking points.
The scene number one grading style we use is teal and orange. The shadow and background push toward teals or deep green, while the highlight, such as street light, warm orange. This is common cinematic color grading techniques used in Hollywood, known as the teal and orange. So it's for contrast enhancement. Teal and orange are complementary color, making the subject, especially skin tone, pop from the background. The cool shadow convey mystery and tension, while the warm tones create emphasis and focus. Visual clarity. Despite being a night scene, the use of color contrast help distinguish elements clearly. So next is for scene 2, we use dark olive and warm skin tones. The shadows and background are pushed toward a deep olive green, while the highlight, especially on the face, retain a subtle warm undertone. This style mimic a moody, dramatic cinematic, psychological thrillers, or drama. The greenish olive shadow give the scene a gritty, unscented tone, suggesting something curious or fishy. Isolation and intensity. The lighting direction, combined with warm mid-tones, isolates the character from the background, making it feels more intense and more dangerous. Next is for scene 3, we use a color grading, blue and cyan 19. The entire image is tinted with a blue and cyan hues, giving it a mute, desaturated look, especially in the midnight or mid-tone. Like horror, suspense color grade used to convey fear and isolation. It can give a cold atmosphere. Blue and cyan immediately signal nighttime discomfort or sterility, making the environment feel like unwelcoming. Emotional detachment. Blue remove warmth from the image, making the character appears isolated and threatening. Focus on expression. The minimal color variance make viewer focus on facial expression and subtle emotional clues. So next is for scene 2, we use dark olive and warm skin tones. The shadows and background are pushed toward a deep olive green, while the highlight, especially on the face, retain a subtle warm undertone. This style mimic a moody, dramatic cinematic, psychological thrillers, or drama. The greenish olive shadow give the scene a gritty, unscented tone, suggesting something curious or fishy. Isolation and intensity. The lighting direction, combined with warm mid-tones, isolates the character from the background, making it feels more intense and more dangerous. Next is for scene 3, we use a color grading, blue and cyan 19. The entire image is tinted with a blue and cyan hues, giving it a mute, desaturated look, especially in the midnight or mid-tone. Like horror, suspense color grade used to convey fear and isolation. It can give a cold atmosphere. Blue and cyan immediately signal nighttime discomfort or sterility, making the environment feel like unwelcoming. Emotional detachment. Blue remove warmth from the image, making the character appears isolated and threatening. Focus on expression. The minimal color variance make viewer focus on facial expression and subtle emotional clues.
There are three types of lighting used in this film. The first one is top lighting. It also called as overhead lighting or shielding lighting. This refers to light that places directly above the subject. Only in a narrow area is lit, while most of the frame is remain in deep shadows. This creates a high contrast and a tense. From Abeyo film, we can see a strong top light and low-key execution that execute depth and mood. The Joker also gives the same vibe by it, emphasizing emotion and psychological tense. The second one is side or back rim lighting. It's a lighting technique where one or more lighting positioned behind the subject often high and slightly off. It also creates a glowing outline of the subject edges. The light will be placed behind the subject and you will focus toward the camera. This helps to highlight contour around the shoulder and side of the face. In our film, we use this technique to separate the subject and the busy background. This technique helps a lot when Abeyo talk about his family. This technique gives a dim mood so the viewers can feel the set in the story. In Joker's film, this technique covers half of the Joker's face to creating a stark contrast between light and shadow. The third lighting is front lighting. This happens when the main light shows directly to the subject. It's minimizing the shadows of the face or the body. These techniques help to show a clear subject. It also doesn't show a mood. We use this technique to hide the imperfections of the subject. This technique also can help the subject to be the focus point of the scene.
Hi guys, so now it's about exposure and camera technique. So for the exposure, we optimizing exposure for cinematic quality that such as adaptive ISO setting that we keep ISO low from the 100 to 400 in bright condition for noise reduction, and we use higher ISO to 800 plus to carefully in low light with proper stabilization. And from the camera technique that it is a fundamental, we use a headroom style for aspect of composition that significantly influence how viewers perceive a person within the shot. And proper headroom contribute to a balanced and professional aesthetic and ensuring the subject appears comfortably positioned in the frame. So to other camera technique, we use rule of third. So the rule of third is a fundamental law of visual structure used significantly our movie making, and it suggests an image be divided into 9 equal sections by 2 equal space horizontal and 2 equal space vertical lines. The idea is to place the most important part of a composition on or near these lines or at their interactions. So in the scene, Abeyo is being interrogated by the police. For exposure, we use a Pro RAW mode for enhanced exposure control when applying the Dutch tail dot, and enable HDR and Smart HDR4 to optimize contrast and details without harsh exposure shift. For the camera technique, we use Dutch tail dot such as we use an angle variation and a slight tilt from 10 to 15 degrees for create a subtle unease, while extreme tilt we use 30 plus degrees. And for the lens, we use a wide angle lens, and we use a movement integration to combine with tracking shot for disorientation or intentions.